Sustainable Development Goals aim to create both a better and more sustainable present and future world. These goals speak to a number of challenges we as a global community face and will continue to face in the future if action is not taken. Our task in this project is to bring awareness to goal number 14, life below the water. The World Health Organization defines goal 14 as conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. We will address problems with overfishing, the effects of plastic waste on our oceans, as well as the effects of pollution and waste on marine life. As stated in Module 13, Ecological Globalization, overharvesting, also known as overexploitation, is the unsustainable harvesting of renewable resources like forests, fisheries, and food crops. This means that these resources are being harvested and used at a rate that nature cannot replace. Eventually, the resource will diminish and in some cases cease to exist. This imbalance in supply of fish has vast impacts on many aspects of life. This affects food webs and leads to loss of other important marine life. There is a major impact on the economy, being that jobs are lost as well as impacts on coastal economies. The tragedy of the commons is a great example in explaining about the concept of overfishing. If you are unfamiliar with this concept, the tragedy of the commons, in essence, is that in group settings, if individuals are acting in their own best interests in mind, they will act in a selfish manner and act not for the betterment of the group by using up a shared resource. This concept has many applications to overfishing, and they all stem from money and greed. As an article in the Environmental Claims Journal provides, fishing is an industry that makes over $100 billion per year. Today, we have the highest rates of fishing ever recorded, and this number has only been on the increase. Information from the Food and Agriculture Organization states that 70% of Earth's fish species are either depleted or fully exploited. This is a major problem that we will address in the following slides. We have been fishing for thousands of years with no immense issues. This problem results from large commercial fishing companies and access to technology. One of the main factors that contributes to overfishing is illegal fishing activity. Fishing goes unreported and/or unregulated. This does not allow for traceability, which helps conservation efforts to track fish from catch to consumer and allows for an accurate population count. This has become a problem because if we were able to track how many fish are left, we could have done something sooner to decrease the negative effects of overfishing. Capitalistic mentalities also play a big role in overfishing. There's a lot of money to be made in this field, and by abiding to capitalism, people always want more and will never be satisfied with what they have. Capitalism is built on growth and expansion, and by having these outlooks, it can lead to depletion of common resources, as we previously discussed with the tragedy of the commons. Most large commercial fishing companies also use unnecessarily large fleets that catch much more fish than needed, as well as catching other marine species they did not intend to. The effects that result from overfishing are very significant and impact humans more than the average person thinks. To begin with the impacts on the ecosystem, overfishing leads to unstable population dynamics. This leads to changes in food webs. Fish play a large role in these food webs, serving as a source of food for other animals and marine life, and also consume smaller fish or other marine life. By lowering the number of fish to be eaten and the number of fish that eat other organisms, there are significant impacts to a number of other important species, which will cause other problems both in the ocean and on land. Earth's ecosystems affect more than just nature. They will affect us as well as future generations. Trawling is a method of fishing where nets are dragged along the ocean floor. This is a very unsustainable way to fish and causes a lot of problems. These dragging nets cause damage to bottom feeders, coral reefs, and other endangered species, not to mention that they catch things that were not the target fish, such as sea turtles. To move to the economic impacts, the first most obvious effect is a depletion of a significant food resource that so many people rely on. As well as that, jobs also disappear. Underdeveloped regions rely on fish as both a source of food and a source of income. As overfishing worsens, coastal economies will disappear. Fish are a highly traded food commodity. Essentially, having fish helps the economy, and not having fish hurts the economy greatly.
Hi, our group's topic is life below water. Sea is three-fourths of the Earth's surface, which is the biggest source of the protein. Approximately 3 billion people in the world live near the sea. Therefore, if the lives below water are not healthy, there is no way to save the world from many problems, including global warming. I believe that saving the lives below water is one of the keys to save the world. However, the sea ecosystem and the lives below water are attacked by humans. Think about how many objects around us are made of plastic. There are so many plastic products for daily use. This is one of the biggest causes of environmental pollution, especially sea pollution, since it doesn't rot and hangs around in the environment for hundreds of years. Currently, landfilling is one of the most common ways to dispose of plastic wastes. However, landfilling is considered highly wasteful as it requires a vast amount of space and the chemical constituents. Also, plastic wastes can be easily blown into waterways or carried out to sea by flood water when landfills are poorly managed. According to Green Tumble, an environmental organization, over 110 million tons of nurdles, which is pellet of plastics, are shipped every year. This huge amount of plastic has been dumped at sea and it causes many problems. The majority of plastic products are made of polypropylene, which is a material that is made from petroleum and natural gas. All of these materials are non-renewable fossil fuel-based resources that are toxic and harmful for the sea ecosystem and the lives below water. The plastic breaks down into the pieces, which is known as microplastics, and marine animals like turtles or seabirds ingest those wastes, and this causes the death of so many of them. According to a study carried out in 2013, up to 35% of turtle deaths were caused by plastic ingestion, and the probability that sea turtles will consume even more plastic increases every year. Dr. Eric Bunn, an oceanographer who tracks plastics in our seas, said, "We are facing tsunami of plastic waste, and we need to deal with that. However, plastic is used all the time due to its convenience, but most people never really think twice about it. Even though the plastics are so harmful, human dependence on plastic products is high. We need a new policy to better deal with the plastics issues to save the sea ecosystem and the lives below water. For the new policy, we need a radical shift in how we deal with plastic waste. A new policy that compensates the defects of current policies is using biodegradable plastics. Unlike traditional oil-based plastics, biodegradable plastics are made up of biodegradable, bio-based, or both types of materials. To be considered biodegradable, this decomposition has to be measured by standardized tests and take place within a specified time period, which vary according to the disposal method chosen. According to American Society of Testing and Materials, in the US, there is a biodegradability standard test method for soil, marine, and freshwater, wastewater treatment facilities, and anaerobic digestion. Then what would be the advantages of biodegradable plastics? They are renewable and not toxic. Also, it is easier to recycle and take less time to break down. And they are decomposed by the action of living organisms. They have the potential to solve a number of waste management issues. This can prevent the problems that the huge amount of plastic dumping at sea and their waste hanging around as it solves the waste disposal problems. Also, there is no need to worry about the lives below water as the sea ecosystem becomes healthy.
For the next aspect of our project, we may transition into analyzing human pollution and its effect on underwater life. At least 800 species worldwide are affected by marine debris. To make a connection with the other aspects we have discussed thus far in the presentation, 80% of that debris is plastic. This waste affects all sorts of animals, varying from fish, birds, and more, by causing them to starve, suffocate, or be killed directly. It is also concerning to think about the younger animals who are affected. They are not as selective about what they eat as adults, so they may be harmed even more easily. In terms of how the pollution affects humans directly, the waste ends up in seafood. Once humans eat this seafood, which has been ingested with microparticles from the plastic, it can lead to several diseases and health problems. The waste also interferes with navigation systems used for transportation, such as boats, yachts, etc. Needless to say, the ocean provides oxygen, 80% of it, and by polluting it, we are ruining the world at an alarming rate. The ocean is also the world's main water supply. 97% of the water we drink and bathe in every day comes from the ocean. Next, we may study how severe the situation really is. Scientists predict that just 30 years from now, the weight of the ocean's plastics will exceed that of all the combined fish in the seas. Partner this with the fact that 5,000 square miles of pollution were found in the Gulf of Mexico in 2014, and that 36% of oil enters the ocean from land runoff. It is highly concerning to think about how wildlife and future generations will be able to survive. Finally, we may discuss the types of pollution. Non-point pollution is that which comes from septic tanks, vehicles, etc., whose source cannot be traced. Source point typically comes from oil or chemical spills, and these sources can be traced. Non-point pollution is considered more dangerous because we have difficulty tracing its sources or are completely unable to do so.
As part of this project, we also created a brochure to attract attention to this topic. This image here shows a large fleet casting a net to trawl on the ocean floor. What may seem like a typical fishing method here actually causes a huge number of problems below the ocean surface. These large nets capture an absurd amount of fish as well as untargeted fish and other marine species. The number of fish caught within these nets is unsustainable. This picture is deceiving as it does not show what's truly happening under the water and what the later effects of it are. This photo here shows the effects of a bycatch. A bycatch is when other organisms, such as not the targeted fish or any other organism, is caught. This can lead to species becoming endangered and even extinct.